have to provide this disclaimer. Please understand that I'm talking about 40 years. I am no spring chicken. And while no names have been changed to protect the infamous, my dates may be just a little bit fuzzy. My first recollection of Mountain Projects goes back to about 1985. I had married a young man right out of high school, the first one that I remember other than my daddy that ever told me I was pretty. I'd taken a job in a sewing plant across the hill in Jackson County, and I'd given birth to a daughter and was heavily pregnant with my son. We were the working poor. My husband was a mechanic. I had no leave to pay for the time that I would be out of work having my son, and I was stressed beyond belief. I came across an ad in the local paper for a program that Mountain Projects had that offered to help families have gardens. You applied, and if you qualified, you received a voucher, you went to the local hardware store, and you got seeds and other things that you might need to plant that garden. I never saw that program again at Mountain Projects, but that program was not the reason God saw fit to have me there. While I was there, I saw that it was application time for Head Start. Now, I'd heard of Head Start, but I didn't have a huge amount of information. And with the encouragement of the people that saw me there, I enrolled my daughter, and a few years later, my son. In the midst of that turmoil, that time, there were jobs that were worked and jobs that were lost, homes that were rented and lost, family relationships that were strengthened and lost, and there was that season of chaos where my husband decided he no longer wanted to be married to me. In that despair, thinking that homelessness was imminent, I reached out to the HUD program and applied, only to be told that the wait list was long and in fact closed the day after I put my name on that list. There was a short reprieve in my marriage for a very difficult year before my husband left me again on Mother's Day. Yes, that irony is not lost on me. At that time, I was thrown into the most depressing, overwhelming time of my life. I was hopeless, drowning in a dark pit that I could find no way to escape. Then, in what clearly was the miraculous hand of God, I got a phone call that next week that my name was up on that list. That was the beginning of a slow crawl out of circumstances which, without the help of Mountain Projects, would have been my undoing. Over the next few years, I not only had to overcome a financial sinkhole I found myself in, but depression, self-doubt, and numerous setbacks. The folks at Mountain Projects were there for me every step of the way. I think I became their project. I went to Haywood Community College and UNCA, and over with every degree, every step forward, I felt like I was knocked back. I applied for a job at a different agency which was not associated with Mountain Projects, but that I had received services from. I showed up at that interview at that agency with my best face on. I was riding a wave of confidence and enthusiasm from having just graduated. I was in a borrowed dress with makeup and a binder full of recommendation letters and resumes. As I was standing in the elevator going up for that interview, an employee of that agency got on the elevator with me. She looked me up and down, asked what I was doing there, and told me that as a recipient of the services of that agency, I was clearly not qualified to work there. All of a sudden, that wave that I was riding in on became a puddle. I didn't get that job. I had all the education, but no relevant work experience, and that was the answer that I received over and over again. In that time, feeling unemployable, completely inept, my friends at Mountain Projects encouraged me to apply for a position as an AmeriCorps Vista. In that time, the folks at Head Start who had loved, held, and cared for my kids when I honestly just didn't have it in me became my encouragers. The staff in the HUD office became my cheerleaders. There were no job offers on the horizon despite many applications until I applied for that Vista position. I spent 1 year working at the Haywood County Literacy Council, and at the end of that year, I was encouraged by my dear friend Patsy to apply for the Vista leader position. And I have to admit that time, I had never been encouraged to be in any role associated with the term leader. The concept was completely foreign to me, but I took a chance and I applied. Words cannot express the change in my outlook that came because these amazing people had faith in me. Because of the confidence that job instilled in me, being trusted as a leader, I could move forward. Shackles of self-doubt began to fall off. Patsy recently told me that she remembered the conversation somewhere in that year as a Vista leader, that I sat down with her to let her know that I was thinking about law school. I had come to the conclusion at that point that there was no long-term employment on the horizon, and that there's nothing like a good divorce to make you want to be an attorney. While I don't remember that conversation exactly, I do know that for me to dream, to hope, and then to be willing to share that dream when so many others had been dashed before, shows exactly what I thought of Patsy and how I sought her advice. I applied to law school, and as a part of that application, I had to write essays. One of the topics of what I had done to prepare myself for law school. All I knew to say was that I was smart enough to know that I had no clue what I was doing. My father had finished the 5th grade. My mother had finished the 7th. They were beyond proud that all 10 of their children had completed high school. I was the first in my family to graduate from college, and I still hadn't found a job. So my response came down to these 3 things. I had canned my tomatoes. You can always feed a family with just a little if you have enough canned tomatoes. My children had learned how to do their own laundry because, in fact, we were going to law school as a team, not just as mom doing all the work. And I knew who to reach out in my times of need for help or encouragement, and that was my friends at Mountain Projects. That last summer before we went down the mountain to Chapel Hill in the fall, my Angela, that sweet young little thing that I originally had enrolled in Head Start, had the opportunity to spend her summer in a work youth program with Mountain Projects. And at 14 years old, she got all the love and encouragement at Mountain Projects that I had received. My friends at Mountain Projects saw me off to law school at Chapel Hill with genuine love and encouragement. I continued to receive HUD assistance because it was against the rules for anybody in the first year of law school to work. But that was not the amazing part. The amazing part was the phone calls, the cards, and the letters that all my cheerleaders had from me. Now the faces have changed. The folks that were there for me have moved on. And now with one more retirement in the next year, the folks that made my success possible will no longer be working at Mountain Projects. There was never before and will never be another Patsy Davis. God broke the mold when he made her. And I believe, like my divine attachment to Mountain Projects, Patsy has had as her role at the helm of that agency her divine assignment. And I know that with the years of her leadership, the heart of that agency, that determination which threw out the lifeline when I was drowning, held my head up when I was downtrodden, and hugged my children when my hands were full, remains the same. So can you see the miracle now, looking back over the past 40 years? That this love and continuous support gave me the opportunity to turn every difficulty, every burden, every hurdle into a chance to see promise in the world, to see the hand of God in the actions of people with a servant's heart. Those lessons I learned from being associated with Mountain Projects go with me into the courtroom every single day. I know exactly how important it is to give hope to the hopeless, encouragement to the less fortunate, and uplift the fallen while still needing to hold each accountable for his own actions. So I say to each of you who sacrifice in your service every day what I was told so many times: keep your chin up. Your efforts, your kindness, the grace you offer in ways that you may never understand or see make a difference. Stay in the fight, stay true to the mission, and remember that every person you see every day may well just be your miracle in the making. Thank you.